They say Hollow Creek was a town built on dust and gossip. Both traveled faster than the wind and cut just as deep. I remember it clear as sunrise. The day she walked in from the Prairie Road, a woman named Clara Wynne, with eyes the color of riverstones and a heart worn thin from too much losing. She carried nothing but a ragged satchel and a silence that made folks step aside, not from respect, but from the unease that comes when you see someone who's been through more than most could bear. The saloon doors creaked when she passed. Men looked up, then looked away. Women whispered like tumbleweeds rustling through dry sage. Word was her husband died in a cattle drive up north, left her penniless and branded with the kind of pity that turns cruel quick. No one wanted her around. Clara tried her best, knocking on every door she could, the general store, the saloon kitchen, even the church house. But in a town where reputation was worth more than gold, a woman with a past didn't stand a chance. "She's cursed," one woman said. "Trouble follows her," another added. By sundown, she was sitting outside the livery, hands wrapped around herself like she could hold in what was left of her soul. That's when she overheard a ranch hand talking about Wyatt Hollis, a widowed cowboy living out past the ridge, whose wife had died bringing their baby into the world just a week before. Folks said he hadn't spoken more than a dozen words since. Clara listened, her heart catching on that story like a thorn on fabric. Maybe, just maybe, there was something left she could do. By the time she reached the Hollis Ranch, dusk was spilling across the land, painting everything in the soft fire of a dying sun. The air smelled of horses, rain that never came, and grief. Wyatt stood on his porch, tall and quiet, the brim of his hat shadowing eyes that looked like a storm that forgot how to pass. Clara stopped a few paces away, her voice trembling like a leaf. "No one wants me, sir, but I can nurse the baby." Silence. The only sound was the wind brushing through dry grass and the soft cry of an infant inside. Wyatt studied her for a long time, not unkindly, but like a man checking if his heart could risk another crack. Then he nodded once, slow. "The child's inside," and that's how it began. 2 broken souls and a baby no bigger than hope itself. The cabin smelled of wood smoke and sorrow. A cradle sat by the fire, and in it a tiny boy whimpered, red-faced, fists waving at a world too big and too empty. Clara moved gentle as prayer, gathering him in her arms. "Hush now, little one. You're not alone." Wyatt stood watching, hands rough from work, jaw tight from all the words he wouldn't say. That night the wind howled through the cracks, and the rain came down soft as mercy. Inside, a stranger held a child that wasn't hers, and a cowboy stared at the fire like he'd just remembered what warmth was. Days turned into weeks, quiet as a hymn. Clara cared for baby Emmett with a devotion that healed something inside her she didn't know was still alive. She'd hum old lullabies under her breath, tunes her mama sang back in Tennessee, and sometimes Wyatt would pause outside the doorway, not daring to step in, afraid the sound might vanish if he did. Their words were few. Did he feed? He slept fine. The storms moving in, but there was something tender in those silences, something that said more than speech ever could. Still, the town didn't take kindly to what they didn't understand. Gossip sprouted like weeds. "That widow's living with him now. Ain't right, not decent. She'll ruin that man." And every whisper seemed to chase Clara when she went to town for supplies, burning her skin hotter than the noon sun. She'd drop her gaze, clutch the baby tighter, and keep walking. But back at the ranch, the world softened. Wyatt fixed the porch rail. Clara made stew. The baby laughed for the first time, a bright, pure sound that filled the air like birdsong after drought. One evening, the sky turned a deep violet, stars prickling the edge of night. Clara stood outside, arms folded, watching the cattle move like shadows across the field. Wyatt came to stand beside her, hands in his pockets, eyes set on the horizon. "You ever miss back east?" he asked, voice low. She shook her head. "Ain't much to miss. Folks there look at you and see your mistakes before your face." He nodded, jaw tight. Reckon it's the same here. Silence settled. Not the awkward kind, but the gentle hush of understanding. A wind passed through, smelling of sage and rain. People think I'm something I'm not, she whispered. People think a lot, he said. Don't make 'em right. For a heartbeat, time stood still. Just the two of 'em under that wide, endless sky, two bruised hearts beating the same quiet rhythm. And for the first time, Clara smiled. Then came the preacher's wife, Mrs. Alcott, a woman with eyes sharp as a hawk's and a heart colder than a well rope in winter. She arrived on a white mare, Bible in one hand and judgment in the other. She sat in Wyatt's kitchen, mouth pursed, telling Clara that living under his roof was a sin, that a child shouldn't be raised in disgrace. Wyatt said nothing, just stared out the window, jaw set like iron. That night, after the woman left, Clara packed her things. Wyatt found her at the door, bag in hand. Tears, she didn't mean to cry, spilling down her cheeks. You running from ghosts again? He asked, voice rough. I won't bring shame on you, she said. They'll never stop talking. He stepped closer, eyes soft but fierce. Let 'em talk. They don't feed the baby. They don't know what it costs to keep a soul alive. Her throat caught. No one had ever spoken for her before. Outside, thunder rolled, low, distant, like the earth itself sighing. That night, the storm hit hard. Rain lashed the roof, wind howled through the cracks, and lightning split the sky wide open. The baby cried, frightened by the roar. Clara rushed to calm him, but a loose beam from the ceiling gave way. He crashing down near the hearth. She screamed as her arm got pinned under it. Firelight flaring wild across the room. Wyatt burst in from outside, rain dripping from his hat brim. Without thinking, he threw his shoulder under the timber and heaved. Muscles straining till the beam gave way. He pulled her free, breath ragged, hands shaking. You could have died, he rasped. Would it matter? She whispered. He stared at her, really stared, like seeing her for the first time. It matters to me. He took the baby, set him gentle in the cradle, then turned back. Rain streaked down his face, mixing with tears he didn't bother to hide. No one wants me either, he said. But maybe that's the kind of people who build something that lasts. He took her hand, rough, calloused, honest. You're wanted here, Clara. Don't go. The words hit her like sunlight after endless night. She wept, not from sorrow this time, but from finally being seen. By morning, the storm had passed. The sky stretched wide and blue, clean as forgiveness. The prairie shimmered, new grass glistening with dew. The baby laughed, a sweet hiccuping sound that filled the house with life again. The townsfolk still whispered for a while, but like all gossip, it blew away when something new came along, and at the Hollis Ranch, peace settled like dust after a long ride. Clara stood on the porch one evening, Emmett asleep in her arms. Wyatt was fixing the fence line, humming low under his breath. The sunset caught his hair, turning it copper at the edges. She touched the locket at her neck, the one that once held a picture of a life long gone, and whispered to the wind, Thank you for finding me when I'd near forgotten myself. Now, I ain't saying it was some grand love story. There weren't no fancy vows or town dances, no declarations shouted from rooftops. But out there, under the endless western sky, they built something quieter, a home born from loss, held together by small mercies, a cup of coffee shared at dawn, a fence mended side by side, a baby's laughter floating through open windows. Sometimes that's all it takes, two weary souls choosing to stay. And if you're listening close, I'll tell you what I learned from it all. See, the world's full of folks who'll tell you you ain't wanted, that your past is too heavy, your heart too cracked to hold love again. But they don't know nothing about the way grace sneaks up on a person in the middle of the storm. Clara Wynne found her place not because she was perfect, but because she was needed. And Wyatt Hollis, well, he learned that strength ain't just in lifting beams or wrangling cattle. Sometimes it's in letting someone stay. So if you ever find yourself wandering, heart sore and hands empty, remember this. Friend, somewhere out there past the noise and the shame, someone's whispering the same words that saved them both. You're wanted here.